biblical times.
Join me as I dive deep into Leviticus 6 and challenge myself to uncover what the Bible really says about fraud. In this video, you'll explore what the Bible says about fraud, specifically in Leviticus 6, and its implications for our understanding of ethics. The Bible can be a challenging read, especially when it comes to ancient laws that seem so far removed from our modern context. One of the biggest hurdles is trying to understand how these laws apply to us today, particularly when it comes to fraud and accountability. We often assume that biblical laws were only meant for ancient Israel, but what if I told you that there's so much more to it? Take fraud, for instance. We often think of fraud as a modern concept, something that only came into play with the rise of commerce and trade. But what if I told you that fraud was just as much a concern in biblical times? How did ancient Israel deal with fraud, and what can we learn from their approach? One of the reasons it's so hard to understand ancient laws is because we often try to apply our own modern-day understanding to them. We assume that biblical laws were meant to be static and unchanging, but the reality is that they were often intended to be dynamic and adaptive. By recognizing this, we can start to appreciate the complexity and nuance of biblical ethics. Delving into Leviticus 6, we find a fascinating discussion on restitution and the seriousness of committing fraud in biblical times. The laws outlined here are strikingly detailed, covering everything from stolen livestock to deceitful business practices. One thing that stands out is the emphasis on personal responsibility. If you've committed fraud, you're accountable for making it right, no matter what. One of the most interesting aspects of Leviticus 6 is the way it approaches restitution. In biblical times, if you stole from someone, you didn't just pay back what you owed, you had to pay back more. This was a way of acknowledging the harm caused and taking responsibility for your actions. It's a powerful model for accountability that still resonates today. What's also striking about Leviticus 6 is the way it highlights the seriousness of fraud. Committing fraud wasn't just seen as a minor infraction, it was a serious offense that required serious consequences. This emphasis on gravity is something we often lack in our modern approach to fraud, where we often focus more on punishment than restoration. In biblical times, fraud was seen as a breach of trust, a violation of the community's sense of justice. It's this emphasis on community and relationships that makes Leviticus 6 so relevant today. We often focus on individual accountability, but what about the impact of fraud on our communities, our families, and our relationships? One of the most crucial insights we can take away from Leviticus 6 is the importance of integrity in our dealings. These ancient laws emphasize that our actions have consequences, not just for ourselves, but for others as well. By recognizing this, we can start to build a culture of accountability and trust. In a world where fraud is increasingly sophisticated, we need to rediscover the importance of personal responsibility and integrity. These ancient laws remind us that our actions have consequences and that we're accountable for making things right when we go wrong. The biblical perspective on fraud offers us a much-needed corrective to our modern approach, one that emphasizes punishment over restoration and accountability. By recognizing the importance of integrity and community, we can start to build a better, more just society. That's it for today's video. Thanks for joining me on this journey into Leviticus 6. If you've got thoughts on biblical ethics or fraud, I'd love to hear them in the comments below. Don't forget to check out my other videos for more insights into the world of biblical ethics.
Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to dive deeper into your faith. Be the first to see our new videos by following the link in the description, comments, and bio. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Hit the like button and share your feedback in the comments. Don't forget to check out our next video as well. Sharing our content with friends and family could be the rejuvenation they need. Thank you for watching.